When we think of birds, we often picture them soaring high in the blue sky. Flight is one of nature's most incredible inventions. It allows birds to travel vast distances, escape from danger, and find food in places other animals cannot reach. Yet, if you look around our planet today, you will find some of the world's most fascinating birds living their entire lives on the ground. These are the giants, like the ostrich in Africa, the emu in Australia, and the rhea in South America. They are powerful runners with long legs, but their wings are far too small to lift their heavy bodies from the earth. Their existence presents a wonderful puzzle. Why would a bird not fly? For a very long time, people have wondered about these enormous flightless birds. How did they come to be scattered across different continents, separated by vast oceans? An old idea suggested that their ancestors all lived together on one giant supercontinent called Pangaea. When this landmass broke apart millions of years ago, the birds were simply carried along with the drifting continents, slowly evolving into the different species we see today. This seemed like a simple and elegant explanation for their global distribution. However, nature's stories are often more complex and surprising than we first imagine, and new discoveries have begun to paint a very different picture of their past. These ground-dwelling birds, known as paleognaths, share a common ancestry, but their story is not one of ancient land bridges. The ostrich, the emu, the kiwi, and their relatives are all part of a very old family of birds. While they cannot fly, they are incredibly well adapted to life on land. The ostrich, for example, can run at speeds of up to 70 kilometers per hour, using its powerful legs to cover great distances and its tiny wings for balance. Similarly, the cassowary of New Guinea is a formidable forest dweller with a sharp claw that makes it a creature to be respected. These birds prove that being flightless is not a disadvantage, but rather a different way of thriving. The question still remains though. If their relatives are scattered across the globe and they themselves cannot fly, how did they get there? The answer, it turns out, was not hidden in the movement of the continents, but within the delicate bones of their long-lost ancestors. A recent discovery has taken us back in time to an era when the world was very different, and the predecessors of these land-bound giants commanded the skies. This revelation changes everything we thought we knew about them and provides a stunning example of how life on our planet is always in a state of transformation, adapting and changing in remarkable ways. The key to unlocking this ancient mystery was found not on a vast plain, but resting quietly in a museum collection. Scientists at the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History examined a fossil that was 56 million years old. This fossil belonged to an ancient bird named Lithornis promiscuus. It was not a huge bird like an ostrich. It was about the size of a modern grey heron. But this creature was special because it was a very distant relative of today's flightless giants. The most important part of this fossil was its breastbone, also known as the sternum. In birds, this bone is where the powerful flight muscles attach, and its shape tells us a great deal about how a bird flies. To understand what the fossil was telling them, the researchers used a special technique to carefully analyze the shape of the Lithornis breastbone. They compared it to the breastbones of many different modern birds. They looked at birds that are powerful, long-distance flyers, like eagles and herons. They also looked at birds that only fly in short, quick bursts, like chickens or the tinamou, which is the only living relative of the ostrich family that can still fly. The results of this comparison were truly astonishing and provided the clue that scientists had been searching for so long. It was a direct message from a long-vanished world. The analysis showed something very clear. The breastbone of Lithornis did not look like that of a short-burst flyer. Instead, its shape was a near-perfect match for the breastbones of modern birds that are known for their incredible stamina in the air, the ones that undertake long migratory journeys across continents and oceans. This small ancient bird was not just capable of flight, it was built for long-distance travel. This single bone was proof that the ancestors of ostriches and emus were not stuck on the ground. They were expert aviators, able to cross huge bodies of water and populate new lands all on their own. This discovery completely changed the story. The Paleognaths did not ride on continental rafts to spread across the world. Instead, their ancestors flew there. They flew from one continent to another, establishing new populations in Africa, South America, and Australia. This explains how these related birds ended up in such distant places, long after the supercontinent had broken apart. The mystery of their distribution was solved not by geology, but by the remarkable flying ability of their predecessors. The giants of today are the descendants of ancient world travelers who once ruled the skies. If the ancestors of ostriches were such skilled flyers, it raises an even more fascinating question. Why did their descendants stop flying? The answer lies in the world they came to inhabit. The time when Lithonis and its relatives were flying across the globe was just after the extinction of the dinosaurs. This was a pivotal moment in Earth's history. With the great predatory dinosaurs gone, the world was a much safer place for animals living on the ground. There were fewer large carnivores to hunt them, which meant that staying on the ground became a much less risky way to live and raise a family. At the same time, the ground offered an abundance of food. There were plants, seeds, insects, and small animals to eat, all available without needing to take to the air. Flying is an incredibly demanding activity. It uses a tremendous amount of energy to power the flight muscles and keep a body in the air. If a bird can find everything it needs, food, safety, and mates, on the ground, then the need for flight becomes less important. Over many generations, if there is no strong reason to fly, the powerful wings and muscles required for it can gradually shrink away as the birds become better adapted for a life of running and foraging. This process did not just happen once. Genetic studies have shown that different groups of these birds lost their ability to fly independently of one another, on different continents and at different times. An ostrich's ancestors in Africa gave up flight, while an emu's ancestors in Australia did the same, as did the kiwi's ancestors in New Zealand. This is a brilliant example of what scientists call parallel evolution. It is when different species in different parts of the world evolve similar traits because they are facing similar environmental pressures. In this case, the pressure was the benefit of staying on the ground in a world with fewer predators. So, the journey to becoming flightless was a trade-off. These birds gave up the sky for a safer, more energy-efficient life on land. They exchanged the power of flight for the power of running. Their bodies changed over millions of years, growing larger and stronger for a terrestrial existence. Their wings, no longer needed for their original purpose, became small remnants of their high-flying past. It is a powerful reminder that evolution does not always move towards more complexity. Sometimes, losing an ability can be the most successful strategy for survival in a changing world. The story of the ostrich's flying ancestors is more than just a fascinating piece of ancient history. It teaches us a profound lesson about the nature of life itself. It shows us that nothing in the natural world is fixed. Animals are constantly changing, adapting, and finding new ways to survive in an ever-shifting environment. The ability to fly, which seems like the ultimate advantage for a bird, can become unnecessary when conditions on the ground change. This discovery reveals just how flexible and opportunistic evolution can be, shaping creatures to fit the world they live in at that specific moment in time. This tale highlights that evolution is not a straight line moving in one direction. It is not always about becoming bigger, faster, or more complex. Sometimes it is about simplification. Losing a complex ability like flight might seem like a step backward, but for the ancestors of the ostrich and the emu, it was the key to their success. By saving the enormous amount of energy required for flight, they could invest that energy into growing larger, running faster, and producing more offspring. It reminds us that what we might see as a loss can actually be a brilliant evolutionary gain, a perfect adaptation to a new set of circumstances. Furthermore, this discovery underscores the importance of looking for new evidence and being willing to change our minds. For decades, the theory of continental drift was the accepted explanation for how these birds were distributed. But as new evidence from both genetics and the fossil record emerged, scientists had to revise their understanding. The fossil of Lithornis provided the final, concrete proof that a new story was needed. It is a wonderful example of the scientific process at work, where new discoveries can overturn old ideas and lead us to a deeper, more accurate understanding of our planet's history. Ultimately, when we look at an ostrich today, we are not just seeing a giant flightless bird. We are seeing a living monument to millions of years of evolutionary history. We are seeing a creature whose ancestors conquered the skies, traveled the world, and then chose to reclaim the land. It is a powerful narrative of adaptation, survival, and the endless creativity of nature. It reminds us that every living thing on Earth has a deep and complex story, and there are always more secrets waiting to be discovered, hidden within ancient bones and the building blocks of life itself.